All right, so we are on our way to the Found Footage 3D event.
And I'm navigating, so this video might end quickly.
And it might also end with like water creeping up the frame.
If we crash, it's probably me.
It's her fault, without question.
I sort of know where we're going.
Yeah, you see the confidence that is instilled with statements like that? I sort of know where we're going.
I kind of do.
Oh my god. All right, well, operating on the idea we get there.
Yes, it is the Fort Lauderdale, Florida premiere of Found Footage 3D. Director DeGennaro will be in attendance doing a whole Q&A, meet and greet thing before the movie.
And we're going to be shooting it.
Yes.
So we're hoping to get excerpts from that will be popping in. Where'd you go?
I'm adjusting.
You disappeared.
This has been a long drive.
Really? No. Oh, all right. And then the movie, after the Q&A, of which I've stated before, and I will...
Someone's a skeptic.
I am a skeptic, but as I said in the trailer reaction, they got me interested, okay? They hooked me. They're gonna answer the question of why in these found footage movies, people just don't put the damn camera down and run.
And I want to know what is exactly in 3D. How did they make this 3D?
Whoa.
That was a really long light, and now we're driving.
Now we're moving.
He almost crashed us before, too.
Okay, technically that was not my fault.
Technically, you almost went into another car.
And more importantly, I didn't. So, with that aside, yes, the 3D is an interesting component as well, I guess.
And I will say, I love found footage. I love this idea of a movie within a movie. I'm not the biggest 3D fan because I wear glasses, and 3D movies aren't made for people with glasses because I have to put the 3D things over my glasses, and it sucks. But I really want to see this. I want to know what they did.
All right, so maybe we'll get a goofy shot of you in your 3D glasses.
My 4 eyes.
Yes. Here we go. Here's a nice litmus test. Where are we turning?
A mile. Make a right. 1.3 miles.
Wow.
Make a right.
Everyone take note. That's the most explicit directions I've ever gotten from her. Generally speaking,
until we go that mile, and then I'm gonna be like, hey, turn there.
Turn as we're passing.
Yeah.
So,
it's 3rd Avenue.
Okay, that tells me nothing. All right. So, and I guess we're going to Savor Cinema. Formerly.
It used to be Cinema Paradiso. That's how I know it, so that's what I call it.
Right.
I don't think it's called that anymore, but if you Google Cinema Paradiso, it comes up.
Yes. So it's a nice little smaller theater, so it's going to be kind of an intimate setting.
I'm trying to
You're gone. Oh, there you are. All right, cool.
I'm trying to hold the camera.
I gotcha. Okay. So no, we're totally stoked. Like she said, it is the premiere. It's not out yet. We're gonna get to Q&A with the director. He actually worked with Kim Angle from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so we may get some stories out of that.
Behind the scenes info.
A little behind the scenes info, yeah. So, yeah.
My phone vibrated. I didn't know what was happening. I think I got an email.
Now you know why we miss exits.
I don't pay attention at all.
Yeah. Oh, shiny object. Oh, it's that bad.
Do you see this driving?
That was exaggerated. I want that on the record. That was totally, oh my god.
Okay, I'm gonna shut the camera off because we're actually close to where we're supposed to be, and who knows what's gonna happen.
Here we go.
Bye.
We're very proud to be here with DeGennaro, director of Found Footage 3D, and we have just a handful of questions because I know you're a busy man. So I guess the first one is your background is primarily in sort of short films, and so we were kind of wondering what was the transition like from the short film format to the feature-length format, some of maybe the challenges or differences that you experienced.
I mean, it's a little bit like the difference between sort of running to the end of the block and running 50 miles. They're not even. It's like it's the same activity supposedly, but they're so completely different from one another that like they may as well not even call them different. I mean, this has been a 4.5 year process to get this movie from when I sat down to write the script until now, and it's not over yet. So that's longer than the American Civil War lasted.
That's a good point. Okay, yeah.
Interesting factoid that I did not know.
Yeah.
So it's and you have to fight the urge to sprint. Because you want to sort of be like, we're almost done with the movie, and you think, all right, we're almost done with the movie, and then like it's a year later, and you're still like, all right, we're almost done with the movie, and you're like, and you run a bit, right? And so it's definitely it's a marathon.
All right, so if your choices are Civil War and make movie, go with Civil War. You'll get it done quicker. I gotcha. Okay, I know that Lexus had a question.
Yes. So one of the things I thought was interesting was I saw also you did a lot of sound design, and I wasn't sure how you went from sound design to directing. And is it hard to let that go and not try and just take over?
Oh, I didn't have to let it go. I did all the sound design.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. I mean, that's
okay, I appreciate that then. But was directing a new experience as opposed to sound design? Did it have any similarities or differences?
I mean, there's a lot of similarities. There's, one of the great things about doing sound. So I've done actually both sides of sound. I've done on-set sound, and then I've also done sound design and post-production.
Right.
And so you get to see the cool thing about sound is you get to see the entire filmmaking process.
Oh yeah.
When you do sound, you can be on set watching, and so you get to watch other directors direct actors and set up shots and so like you can see what people do right and what people do wrong, and you can see the mistakes that people make so that you sort of know what pitfalls to avoid.
That's your school.
And and if you're smart, you sort of you pay attention and you listen to people when, like I don't really know a whole lot about lights, but I know enough to sort of be able to tell my DP exactly what I need, and all of that vocabulary I developed by just being on sets and listening to sort of, and paying attention, asking questions and so, and then when it came time for post-production, especially on a movie like this, which is, being found footage, I wanted to sort of be very real as possible with the way we recorded the sound, so that we didn't have wireless microphones on people that were clearly not wearing wireless microphones.
Right. Yeah.
And so that, knowing that I was going to be doing the post-production on it, and gave me, was great because I know what can and can't be fixed. I know what things I need to worry about and what things I don't. And we had a sound guy on set, Ian, who did an amazing job, but it was very much sort of like, right. It was like I know what I can make work and what I can't make work in post-production, and so that was it gave me the freedom to sort of be able to kind of take some chances with how we recorded the sound that would normally are things that I would advise my students when I teach sound to never ever do. So, but it's found footage.
That's a really interesting approach to. You have such a different. Not methodology, but a background info that other directors might not have in terms of what you can and can't pull off.
Yeah, and there are a lot of places when you watch the movie, you'll see there are places definitely where the script was written around sound. And again, because it's found footage, there are places where the camera's sort of looking at something really sort of not terribly interesting for a longer period of time than most people are comfortable with. But there's a lot going on in the soundtrack.
Okay.
And there's there are places where it's almost completely black. But I knew that I was going to be able to tell the story sort of through the soundtrack, and so there's a lot. It has
I could get any more excited.
It definitely influenced my writing.
Calm it down over there.
No. That's so awesome. That's
all right, very cool. Finally, you got to work with the legendary Kim Henkel, and so I was wondering, especially our audience is going to want to know, did he share with you any anecdotes or sort of behind-the-scenes info on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that just maybe hasn't been out there already?
I don't not so much. Kim is he's a dear friend and my mentor, and I love him to death. Kim was very focused on this movie. Kim likes, when we originally approached Kim, we thought, okay, well maybe we can get Kim to put his name on it. And we get Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and we throw him a little bit of money or some points and whatever. Right. But Kim was like, if I'm going to come on board, I'm going to be on board. And so Kim came on board, and Kim and I spent probably close to a year sort of going back and forth on the script. I would write drafts of the script, and Kim would read them, and he'd give me notes, and he'd talk about sort of things that he thought could be improved, and every time I was trying to fake something or fudge something, or there was a hole that I was hoping people would never notice, it was the first thing that Kim said.
Oh wow!
I sat down, I was like, this doesn't make any sense, and I was like, oh damn it, nobody would notice that. So it was great because through that process, I was able to sort of really sort of honed the script to a degree that I would not have been able to otherwise. But Kim is great to work with. Kim, as you may know, anybody that sort of knows him and knows Texas Chainsaw knows that Kim is sort of probably the most famously reclusive member of the Chainsaw
He does not get out there a lot. That's why I asked.
Yeah, he doesn't really like doing interviews. He doesn't really like talking about.
Slide one in there myself.
Work a whole lot. So, so I've definitely, I've heard bits and pieces just through various conversations that we've had, but nothing that, no like real sort of dishy stuff. I did, however, one time go to, so they shot it in Austin, right by where I live.
Yes.
And so I was asking Kim about sort of where it was, and I ended up when we were shooting our Indiegogo video, there's a Texas Chainsaw sort of riff in there, and I wanted to try to shoot that on the same road where they shot the final shot of Texas Chainsaw.
Oh, wow.
And it's not a working road anymore. And there's a highway, like the top of this hill, there's a giant, like 8-lane highway that just cuts right through the middle of it, and the road is sort of overgrown with grass and stuff, but it's still there, and you can still sort of see, like, wow, that's exactly sort of where they shot Sally screaming in the back of the truck and stuff. It's very kind of cool.
Put it on the list. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. I admit I thought I'd sneak one in there because Kim doesn't do much, but still, we got a lot. So we thank you so much for joining us, and we're really looking forward to checking out, which we'll be doing momentarily, Found Footage 3D.
Oh, come on, we can be a little louder. How you doing tonight? Awesome. This is our first event in Broward. My name is Mark. This is Igor, and we are from the Popcorn Frights Film Festival. We usually do our festival in Miami. We've been following Found Footage 3D for quite some time. We first came across Steven, who's here with us tonight, in Austin at South by for the last few years.
It was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
We just had a date with Steven earlier, and we were just reminiscing how 3 years ago we were both huddled on the carpet floor of South by Southwest. Big building where we were getting into an industry session, and Steven was passing out these little postcards for Found Footage 3D, and he's like, this is a really kick-ass movie, we're just really excited to get started, we really think it's going to be something completely killer, and I was like, I can't wait, I really can't wait, be sure to think of us when you're ready. That was 3 years ago. How long have you been nesting this story? How long, Steven, come on, how long has it been?
It has been 4 years.
It's my mother. Give her a round of applause. No, it's been 4.5 years. From the day that I sat down to write the script to the day that we shot the movie was exactly 2 years to the day. And then it was been another 2.5 years since then, which is now 4 or 5 months longer than the American Civil War lasted.
It's nothing short of an honor and pleasure to have you here in person for the Florida premiere of Found Footage 3D. Come alive. All my horror film lovers. We have some special guests in attendance. We have some really great friends in attendance. We want to thank all of you for coming out and celebrating what we hope is going to be a new frontier of horror cinema. And we have Steven here to celebrate it with us. So thank you all so much. Thank you. My second go around watching it, and it still absolutely gets the buzz going. Here you go.
One of my favorite moments in watching this movie is we screened it in LA last week, or a week and a half ago. And my director of photography, Drew, was sitting next to me. So he's, during the sort of, Drew shot about 50% of the movie, and the actor who plays Mark shot about 50%. It sort of depended on whether I needed the actors to interact with them or not, or whether there was complicated stuff that I wanted Drew to shoot. So the scene where he goes and reaches in to sort of grab the microphone and like lift it up or whatever, that's Drew's hand that you see actually reaching out sort of grabbing the microphone. And I'm sitting there watching this next to Drew in the theater. And Drew is sitting there going, oh my God, I'm like, Drew, that's you. That was your hand. He's like, I know, but And I was like, yes, it works.
Another question is, how did you come across with the casting? I love the guy who does the sound, like the one who laughed halfway through the film. He's absolutely hilarious. What's the actor's name?
Scott Allen Perry.
Scott
Allen Perry.
He is probably my favorite character in the film. And I also love that we have Scott Weinberg in the film, who I know through South by Southwest. He loves all the same films that we do. And how did Scott get involved with the film as well?
So Scott Weinberg, I had originally written a part for sort of a horror blogger, journalist, critic, whatever you want to call it. Playing himself. And we were gonna, part of the point of that was, it made sense in the story, but it also sort of was one of the things where it's like, well, I can sort of take it out. I can basically get our movie coverage, from people, or at least bring it onto their radar, by bringing it around to all these different people and seeing if they would be interested in the part. And then, before we had a chance to do that, Scott, somebody introduced us, a mutual friend introduced us to Scott, and it happened to be over email, and it happened to be the week of Fantastic Fest.
Right.
13, I think it was, 2013. And so I just, I went up to him, and I knew who he was by sight, but I had never met him before, and I said, hey, I'm Steve, I'm making this movie called Found Footage 3D, and we wanted to talk to you about maybe if you want to be. So Scott, any of you who know Scott know that Scott is like one of the most prolific tweeters like in the entire world. Like hundreds of tweets a day, every day. So like I think before I even had the whole pitch out of my mouth, Scott was already tweeting out, hey, we just got cast in a movie called Found Footage 3D. And we literally like doubled our number of followers overnight. And I was like, all right, well, I guess Scott's in the movie now. And then, so then we became really, really good friends, and he did a great job. So.
One of the things that actually fascinates me about you is originally you didn't go to school for filmmaking. You went to school for is it astrology or what was it? It was no. What did you?
Astronomy.
Astronomy.
I have a PhD in astrophysics.
Yeah.
You have a PhD in
Astrophysics.
I mean, I always wanted to do film.
I was close.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody wants to know about your sign and what it says about your personality, just come up to me after the screening. No, I mean, to be completely frank, like I went back to school because when you go to school, grad school for science, they basically pay you to go to school. And so the whole last 3 years that I was in grad school was when I sort of decided, all right, I want to actually do this. I want to go make movies, which is something I always wanted to do, but never really had the courage to do. So I started working on other people's movies. I did sound on other people's movies, and I wrote my PhD dissertation on set for one of the worst movies I've ever worked on. But there was there was so much downtime because it was a really disorganized shoot. So I would literally just sit there on my computer writing my dissertation, and then once every 3 hours they'd be like, all right, we're going to shoot, and I'd go and we'd shoot for 5 minutes, and then I'd go back to my computer and work. So yeah, I mean, I always wanted to work on movies. Grad school gave me 5 years to sort of figure out what the heck I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and midway through, I was watching the Lord of the Rings extras, and I was like, you know what, that looks like so much fucking fun. I need to go do that, and so I did.
Where are your parents at? Your parents are here, right?
Yeah.
How you guys doing? How do you feel about being at a Florida premiere of your son's movie?
Dad, you can take it.
What was that?
I said it's great. It's going to be off the payroll.
Oh, your son made a fantastic film. We were super excited to be able to present it. I mean, we usually do our events in Miami. We came out to Fort Lauderdale just so we could present the film in the city he grew up with. For those of you who don't know, Stephen actually grew up here in Fort Lauderdale. Yes. That's awesome, right? We want to give the audience a chance to ask Stephen some questions. Who has a question? Raise your hand. All right, what's your question?
You said how men are to make it.
All right, say that again?
How do you decide what level of men are to make it?
How do they decide what level of meta to make it?
Yeah.
To me, the movie started out as a marriage of my two favorite horror movies, which are The Blair Witch Project and Scream. And so Scream was always sort of the tone that we were going for. I wanted to make a movie that was funny and sort of poked fun at the shitty found footage movies that people are making, but at the same time was scary and an example of how good it can be when it's done well. And so that was always just sort of a guidepost. It's like Scream. And when everybody asks me like, what's the tone that you're going for? Is it going to be like jokey, like more like Cabin in the Woods or Evil Dead, or or more scary? And I said, no, this is like Scream, which to me is unique in horror movie history, honestly, in that it is both very, very funny and very, very scary, often at the same time.
We recently hosted the 20th anniversary of Scream. Can't believe that movie's 20 years old right now. And we agree, that's one of the best horror films in the last 20 years.
I saw that here in Fort Lauderdale at the old AMC at Oakland Park.
But when we actually announced the film at one of our events that we were doing found footage 3D, I was actually trying to figure out a way to explain it. I actually said it's the Scream of found footage films.
Yeah, I mean, it's we've been calling it that for 4 years, but it's kind of nice to see that other people aren't recognizing that as well.
Who else has a question for Steven? Don't be shy.
The 3D, was it meant to be a little bit like off?
No, I think it's when you were sitting angled. I think that was a problem. I noticed that when I went up a little door and centered, it was like that. I think a lot because the seats were angled. It was a little bit off.
Yeah, there's a little more crosstalk like between the two eyes in this theater than there are in the theaters that have like big $750,000 projectors that are
Yes.
Hi, Steven. It's a pleasure to be here. Do you have plans for the future?
Do I have plans for the future?
No, he doesn't.
I'm gonna, probably go home and eat a sandwich and take a nap. Yeah, I still gotta have a chicken parm sandwich for dinner. So, honestly, that it's being somewhat flippant, but it's kind of true. Like a lot of it depends on sort of what happens, honestly, in the next week or two, because we're talking to some distributors, and depending on which one of them decides to put out the movie and in what capacity, the doors that will be open to me may be bigger or smaller, and so without knowing that, it's hard to sort of know exactly how I should pitch myself next. But
What you guys should be aware of is that this film, all of you have experience and so much joy with, has won 13 awards at many film festivals. It's not a hidden gem. If you visit the film's Facebook page, you'll see just how many laurels it's received. That means how many film festivals have actually vied to play it. It is one of the most prominent, one of the most celebrated horror films of the year. And what we hope that you'll do is that you'll go and continue supporting it. If you enjoyed it, which I think from the looks of it, all of you did, go on your social media and hashtag it and tweet it out and let your friends know. We want this film to be returned into the commercial theatrical cineplex so that others can enjoy it just as well. We don't want this to be just a one-off show. We want to be able to give Steven a brighter future in the industry, right? I think he's earned it, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I can't give any specifics for it right now, but we're talking to some people that it will definitely get out in theaters in some capacity or another. Whether or not it'll be here in Fort Lauderdale is not something I personally have control over, although I'll certainly fight for it because this is my hometown. But yeah.
Well, when the film actually gets its release, maybe you'll be back down here and we'll host a screening of that. Does anyone else have any final questions for Steven? Yes.
Are there any plans for a sequel to this or another?
If you'd asked me that 2 months ago, I would have said, I am never making another fucking found footage movie again. Period. It's like trying to box somebody with both hands tied behind your back. It's such a restrictive way of telling stories, and you can see that so many of those scenes had to be shot in one take because there was no way to justify a second camera, which means that you live with whatever your actors sort of, you can have 95% amazing take, and then that 5% like is so bad that you have to throw that whole take away. You can't have music, can't have, there's no like montages to move the story forward and all, and so like it's such a difficult way of telling a story that I'm going to be very reluctant to jump back into it. At the same time, I have been working on this for 4.5 years, and so I'm I have a list a mile long of potential sequel ideas. I think the title is going to be Found Footage 3D 2 3D. But maybe I think I might just do a Christopher Nolan where I make the movie, and then I'll make something else, and then make a sequel, and then make something else. So yeah, definitely not next, but maybe someday.
Never know.
It'll be set in space because all horror movies end up in space.
Yeah.
That's true. That's very true. Who else had a question? Yes.
One of the characters, Andrew, he said that there were only 2 good found footage movies. One was the Blair Witch Project. What was the other one supposed to be?
You can probably guess what the other one is supposed to be. It's Paranormal Activity. So for the record, I don't agree with him. That's his opinion. That's not my opinion. I think there are a lot of really good found footage movies. That's why I wanted to make one. I love this Ty West's Sacrament. I think it's a fantastic movie. I love the short Safe Haven in VHS 2 about the crazy Indonesian cult. I think it's probably the greatest horror short film ever made.
Even though it's not horror, I'm a big fan of Cloverfield.
Cloverfield is great. Chronicle is great. So there are a lot of really good found footage movies, but there are a lot more really bad ones. Probably more so than even any of you people realize, because I had to wade through all of them when I was writing the script. Some real bottom of the barrel stuff. Like if you watch any of the ones made by the Asylum, the company that makes the Mockbusters, they made like a fake Cloverfield ripoff for like $12, and it's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Diego, which actually gets some love in the film.
Call it love.
Yes.
Was the sound of you hear like an old couple of movies, is that in camera or what? Like about the noise from the buzzing.
Is the sound in camera of the company?
I try. So I'm a sound guy by trade. That's what I do for a living when I'm not making movies, or at least until recently. So I wanted to not cheat as much as possible on the sound. I wanted to normally speaking, you don't ever record the sound on the camera because it sounds like crap. And so, but I didn't want to cheat. I knew that I had an out. I actually wanted to have places where I subtitled it. Just to give it more of that sort of documentary feel. So most of the audio was recorded on the camera. Occasionally the actors were wearing. Anytime you saw the sound guy in there, he was actually recording. He was wearing my sound gear and actually recording. Actors were wearing all their microphones. But other than that, no, we tried to cheat as little as possible. And then there was a lot of post-production. The last 20 minutes of the movie, from the time she hits him with the hammer, pretty much until the car crash, it's 100% replaced in post-production. It was me with the actors in the studio redoing all their lines and then adding in all the sound effects and all that kind of stuff. So
This is a question I always have to ask. Every film has it, especially with a new filmmaker. What was the absolute worst thing that happened on set? While making the one thing that stands out above anything else, the worst experience you had while making the film.
We had such a fucking great shoot. Honestly, it was a great group of people. The actors and me and the actors and the DP all went out to the location 3 days before the shoot. It was just us. And that location was pretty much, we dressed the inside of the cabin, but it was definitely in the middle of nowhere in Texas. There was no cell phone reception. There was no internet. There was no contact with the outside world. And it was just and it was creepy at night. There was, it was bugs. It was Texas in the middle of the summer. There was, I think probably the most interesting part of that shoot was there was this pack of feral dogs that lived on the property where we shot. And we rounded up as many of them as we could and put them on this adjacent property in a pen, but there were still 5 or 6 of them that we hadn't. They were so skittish around people that we couldn't get them into the truck to sort of get them off the location. And so they would, you would be walking around and you'd be walking with just a flashlight, and it would be literally the only light you could see would be the beam in your flashlight, and you'd turn and you'd see these 2 glowing eyes just sort of staring at you, and you'd hear, and that was even knowing, having been out there for 3 weeks and knowing that these dogs were way more scared of us than we were of them, it was still just a terrifying moment. I think the scariest moment for me was actually in post-production. I went out to record a bunch of stuff in the woods on that same property a year and a half later, and I'm sitting out there and I decided to sort of start making some noises out in the woods, that I was going to potentially use when Derek was making the fake noises early on in the movie. And so I made this noise, and all of a sudden I hear off in the distance this pack of coyotes, probably 20, 25. hear them in the movie if you listen carefully. And then I noticed that they're getting louder, and they're getting louder. And I'm sitting there with my earphones on, so I have it already sort of cranked up, and so it sounds like they're like right there. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna get eaten by coyotes, and I'm gonna find my buddy in the woods.
Actually, I think that was a baby call.
I don't know if that's a whole lot better.
Who else has a question for Steven? Yes.
2 questions. One, what was the budget? And the second one is like, how long was the actual filming versus post-production? You say it's like 4 years, but how long was it actually?
So the film, the budget is the thing that we very closely guard, unfortunately. It was, more than we needed, but less than we wanted. The filming was, so we had 3 days of rehearsal with just me and the actors and the DP where we worked out all of the stuff, and then 15 days of shooting, so it was 3 5-day weeks with weekends off in between. It was an amazing, it really was just a great time. Everybody lived out there. We had these little trailers sort of off to the side, a couple hundred yards away from the cabin behind the barn, and everybody stayed there. And so we were all, I felt like summer camp. It really was just kind of like when we got done shooting at the end of the day, we'd all just go back to the trailers, and those who drank would drink, and we'd have food, and we'd party, and so it really felt, it wasn't the thing where it's like, oh, you go to your job, and then you go home at the end of the day, and you're done with your job. So it was a lot of fun, and I would love to do it again. That's my favorite part of the whole process. Yeah. So it was 2 years to write the script, 3 weeks to shoot it, and then 2.5 years of post-production.
I think your mom has a question.
I think you should describe when you went out to get that extra sound. Remember?
I just did. Wait, what? I'm confused.
And you were on somebody's property?
Oh, jeez.
I want to hear this.
This was in broad daylight. This is Texas. This is such a fucking Texas story. So I decided I needed to get footsteps in tall grass, and that's a really hard thing to do in a sound studio because it's really hard to sort of recreate those sort of conditions. So I grabbed my portable recorder and I drove out to sort of the middle of nowhere in Texas, this what appeared to be sort of an abandoned field, and I recorded myself sort of just swishing through the grass, and I'm sitting there with my headphones with this portable recorder and a microphone, and I'm just swishing through the grass. And I go back to my car and I start sort of going to put stuff away, and I turn, and there's this dude in a cowboy hat with a rifle pointed at me, like just shouldered, fucking pointing at me, walking towards me. And I was just like, holy, totally not necessary. I'm not like, I thought I was rustling his cattle or something. I don't know what the hell. For the only time in my life I've ever had a gun pointed at me. And then once he saw that I was starting to leave, he didn't say a word. He wasn't like, hey, what do you do? A fucking normal person would be like, even if you wanted to carry the gun to sort of intimidate somebody, you'd be like, hey, you're on my property, what's going on? Can I help you? This guy didn't say a single word, just pointed the gun at my head, walked towards me until I got into the car, and then he just put the rifle down and walked away. It was the fucking scariest moment of my entire life.
So let me get this straight. You've had wild coyotes running after you, a cowboy with a rifle. Dude, that's a movie right there.
That's the sequel. I don't know.
That's the sequel right there. Who else has a question?
No,
All right.
I just want to say, Stephen, we spoke earlier. Thanks for answering some of my questions. Great job on the film. I really, really enjoyed it. I brought my daughter with me. She was really right next to me. I saw your first film, the short, First Date, and it was not a lot of dialogue, and it was very, very funny. I was like, wow, this is great filmmaking. Then you do the found footage, horror, but the majority of the film has a lot of comedy in it that the audience were really laughing, and then it got really scary. Where did you get the comedy side from? Is that your strength or
I guess there's some people here that I went to high school with that probably recall me never shutting the fuck up in class and making, jokes. To me, humor and horror are often two sides of the same coin. And one of my favorite moments watching this with an audience is when Lily gets hit by the shovel, and you hear the whole audience gasp, and then laugh, because like, haha, that's a payoff to a joke. And then you realize, oh wait, she's actually really hurt, and everybody's like super, super quiet. And I love playing with that sort of line between, is this funny or is this scary? Because I think in real life that happens a lot too. It's like, you watch somebody fall down the stairs, right? If they get up and go, ta-da, then it's funny. If they like don't, and their neck is like halfway off, then suddenly it's hard, And so I think they're two sides of the same coin. So.
Well, one thing that comedy and horror have in common is that they both rely on timing. It's all about timing.
Yeah.
But it's also they're the two things that are the hardest to do to get a reaction from an audience: scaring people or making them laugh. You can either try too hard and force it, where it seems forced and the audience can tell, or it just takes really good writing sometimes and great performances and great direction to really get the reaction. You got a reaction, you scared the audience, and you made them laugh, which is not something a lot of people can do. One of my favorite horror comedies over the past few years was Cabin in the Woods and The Final Girls.
Yeah.
I think your film succeeds as a horror comedy. I think it definitely has the scares and it definitely has the laughs. And horror comedy is actually my favorite subgenre. Like it's one thing there's just not enough. What are some of the horror comedies that influence you aside from Scream?
A little bit Cabin in the Woods, certainly. Anything sort of meta. I wouldn't call it horror comedy, but the sort of granddaddy of the meta horror film in some ways is Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which has some sort of funny moments, but it's not necessarily supposed to be funny. And of course, Evil Dead 2.
Jason Lives, right?
Jason Lives, yes. Jason Lives. So one of the first movies that I remember seeing a trailer for on TV and being scared out of my mind was like 8 years old when that movie came out. Just the trailer alone sort of scared me. I watch the movie now, and there's nothing scary about it. But it's very funny and it's very fun. So yeah.
We want to thank you for allowing us to premiere your film tonight, premiering it in your hometown, and having this great audience just really embrace it and enjoy it. We hope that found footage gets a massive release and the whole world gets to enjoy it. We just want the best for you. We think you're an awesome filmmaker. We think you have an awesome film, and it's really.
I'm so glad that you guys were able to do this. So thank you guys so much, and thank you all for having me.
Let's thank Steven. Make sure to hit social media, Found Footage 3D.
So that's going to do it for our amazing night out with Found Footage 3D. Obviously, we loved every aspect of it. Please come on back. Let us know what you think in the comment section below if you've had a chance to see it.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel as well as all of our social media. I had plenty of pictures, tweets, Instagram, things going on all over the place from last night. We're still going to be posting them for a couple days.
Yeah, and wanted to let you know I found some footage of you from a few years back. It was...
I thought you had to have a subscription for that site.